CVS, the nation's largest pharmacy chain, is now planning to close as many as 900 stores over the next 3 years.
In a world where retail giants once stood unshakable, a storm is brewing, one that threatens to topple even the mightiest. We're peeling back the curtain on the crisis that's about to change the face of retail forever. Let's unveil 10 of the largest and most iconic retailers that are on the brink of a total collapse. Number 10. Bed Bath & Beyond. Since the epidemic started, Bed Bath & Beyond has experienced a lot of ups and downs. The shop saw a sharp increase in sales at the beginning of a long-awaited comeback when customers started turning to the houses they were forced to live in during the social distancing days. However, problems with the supply chain in 2022 and the decline in discretionary spending the following year caused sales and earnings to skyrocket. Following a dismal quarterly results report this summer, Bed Bath & Beyond CEO Mark Triton, who joined the firm in 2019 after leaving Target, resigned. Wall Street Journal reported described Triton's fruitless attempts to boost Bed Bath & Beyond's private label business. Analysts have cited inherent weaknesses that existed before Triton, as well as strategic shortcomings in a poorly carried out turnaround strategy. Bed Bath & Beyond has new debt financing as well as a plan to liquidate over 150 locations and lay off personnel in order to save cost as it attempts to turn itself around once more. Number 9. RealReal. RealReal is among a group of e-commerce experts who, in spite of the past losses, have gone public in recent years. Although the company's income increased by more than 40% between 2018 and 2020, the pandemic and the ensuing decline in the fashion sector caused difficulties for the luxury resale market. When questions were raised about the company's authentication procedure, it also overcame brand damage. The retailer, in contrast to its competitors in the digital realm, has been hiring more employees since labor shortages made it difficult to acquire inventory. It seems like the retailer had concerns over its employees and understands the difficulty earning during the pandemic. The company's revenue climbed by 47% over the most recent reporting period, but clients switched down to less expensive items in response to inflation, resulting in a decline in average order value. Executives informed analysts that while they had anticipated a late pandemic rise in garment demand to eventually level off, it had done so more quickly than they anticipated. Number 8. Tuesday Morning. Tuesday Morning, one of the pioneers of the off-price model, filed for bankruptcy in 2020 as a result of years of losses and mediocre sales while trying to compete with the off-price behemoths. A steep decline in its revenue in the first few months of COVID-19 also preceded its Chapter 11 filing. The company filed for bankruptcy, closed its outlets, and obtained fresh loan funding. However, Tuesday Morning in May 2022 decreased its sales forecast and predicted an adjusted EBITDA loss of up to $29 million for its current fiscal year due to headwinds in the global economy. It's one of the most vulnerable retail companies, according to S&P Global Market Intelligence. The shop stated that it had begun a going-out-of-business sale with discounts of 30% off on its products sold in approximately 200 remaining outlets on Facebook and its website. Gift card holders had until May 13, 2023 to spend them, and in the upcoming weeks, locations will begin to close. Number 7. Belk. The 16-state chain department stores, Belk, with its headquarters in North Carolina, is back on Monday watch list for another year. It was last on the list in 2021. Analysts said the department stores and clothing brands are more vulnerable to fluctuations in consumer demand this year, and that the impact of inflation on spending on disposable income will be especially severe on them. Many discretionary businesses in the clothing department store sectors have mostly recovered to their pre-pandemic levels. But as discounts rise and consumers become more frugal with their spending, they run the risk of going out of business. Hence, this raises the stake for stores like Belk, analyst at Moody's stated. Number 6. Carvana. Once the used car company Carvana became popular during the pandemic, things drastically changed in 2022 when the market for used cars declined. We can recall this period as the post-pandemic period, and everything was back to normal. People are now more financially stable than during the pandemic, which affected retailers. According to Tim Levin of Insider, the corporation disclosed a $508 million loss for the third quarter of 2022, which caused shares to fall by 50%. Carvana stated in a SEC filing that the company's earlier employment cuts of 2,500 represented an estimated 12% of its workforce and were made in efforts to strike a better balance between its sales volumes and staffing levels. The business is currently displaying very weak credit indicators, prolonged lack of profitability, and negative free cash flow creation, according to Moody's analyst. Number 5. Party City. Imagine a party that was not organized by Party City back then. But the story is something different now. The retailer was especially severely impacted by the epidemic due in part to the drop in social events and an increase in the price of helium, and is still having difficulties surviving. The retailer reported weak Halloween sales and ongoing difficulties in November 2022, so it decided to cut corporate staff by 19%. In a message to investors, CEO Brad Weston stated, "While our overall enterprise-wide Halloween sale numbers were up year over year, they came in a lower end of our forecast as macro headwinds impacted customers' ability and inclination to boost spending on Halloween activities." Number 4, charismatic brands. Buzzy DTC brands like Figs have increased their competitiveness for charismatic brands, the parent company of medical scrub and uniform brands including Dickies and Cherokee, according to a September article by Bloomberg Law. Non-product costs increased by 30%, while sales declined following a pandemic spike. The latter was partly caused by legal bills related to a case the company brought against Figs in 2019, alleging unfair business practices and false advertising. What are your thoughts on why a business should enter the market? Does someone have to enter a business to make money alone, or should they have to provide value to society? According to Bloomberg, the business is currently looking to restructure its supply chain and reduce expenses. Number 3, Bob's Discount Furniture. Bob's Discount Furniture suffered as demand fell following the industry's enormous epidemic growth and consumer attitude turned away from home products. We have all witnessed people begin to spend wisely during the pandemic, which might have contributed to the low demand for new furniture. Despite being a cyclically susceptible sector, Moody highlighted that the company benefited from a moderate amount of leverage. Number 2, Wayfair. Wayfair is now a major player in the home product industry. Few things compared to its e-commerce sales of home products, but the corporation has lost money for most of its existence. 2020 was an unusual year. Over $360 million was made in operating profit by Wayfair. Before that, the business reported a net loss for each of the years it has ever made public, dating back to 2011. Furthermore, even its 2020 profits during the surge in e-commerce and home goods sales came with an extremely narrow operating margin. As e-commerce continued to decline and Wayfair attempted to control expenses, the business announced in August 2022 that 10% of its corporate staff would be let go. At the time, the business stated that it was also attempting to achieve significant reduction in the cost of hiring outside personnel. Despite its difficulties and track record of losses, Wayfair's market capitalization stayed close to $4 billion at the close of September 2022, indicating that investors are still optimistic about the company's ability to turn a profit. Number 1, digital brands. Digital brand groups include wording in its Securities and Exchange filings less than a year after becoming public, indicating that the company might have to file for bankruptcy in the absence of further funding. Since then, the company has raised further capital, but it has incurred significant losses. The foundation of digital brands is its acquisition strategy, which intends to expand the company's reach as the consumer style retailer and possibly even into other markets. However, the business has not yet demonstrated that it can turn a profit on its concept, and acquisitions are costly. Creditors have also sued Digital Brands for making late payments. One of those creditors insisted this spring that Digital Brands postpones its plan for growth until it received payments for goods that were sent in 2019 and 2020, years ago. In June 2022, Digital Brands announced that the acquisition of Sundry, an apparel business with approximately $23 million in sales the previous year, was getting closer to completion. Revenue for the company in the second quarter of 2022 was $3.7 million, and the operating loss was roughly $10.7 million, significantly less than the same period the previous year. Following a hearing, Digital Brand was given until January 17, 2022 to meet the stock market's listing standards following a threat from NASDAQ to delist its shares. Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into the precarious future of the 10 largest retailers. If you found today's video enlightening, make sure to hit that like button. It really supports the channel. And if you haven't already, click subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what we've got lined up. The world of retail is evolving, and we're here to keep you in the loop. Are you curious about how these retail changes might affect your favorite shopping spots? Drop your questions in the comments below. And until next time, see ya.